My fiancé asked for a pause to clear her mind 3 weeks before our wedding. So I called it off, took a job across the country, and left without telling her. Now 6 months later she found my new number, shows up at my apartment crying and saying she screwed up, but I won't even open the door. Her friends keep texting me saying I'm heartless for denying her closure. I thought the worst moment was when my fiancé paused our wedding, 3 weeks out. I was wrong. The real nightmare began the day she showed up at my new front door, claiming she'd made a mistake. The cool Denver air bit at my cheeks as I walked home from work, the city lights blurred by a drizzle. My small apartment, still echoing with boxes, usually felt like a quiet refuge. But tonight, it was about to become a battleground. My name is Caleb, and I'm 29. For years, I was the guy who followed the rules: college, good job in finance, a nice place. Dependable, not flashy. I showed up. And for 5 years, I showed up for Chloe. Every dinner, every family crisis, every tearful night she doubted herself, I was there. I thought we were solid. My own family was complicated. My dad was gone before I remembered him, and my mom, Sharon, always seemed disappointed. My older sister, Brooke, was the golden child, the doctor, always performing at family gatherings with her overly opinionated husband. I was usually fixing a leaky faucet while they held court. Chloe made me feel seen, made me feel important. After 3 years of dating, proposing felt inevitable. And when she said yes, I felt like I'd finally made the right choices. That illusion started to crack about 6 months before the wedding. Little things, she got snappier, distant. She stopped planning with me, outsourcing decisions to her friends. Just stress, she'd say. I backed off, gave her space. But the distance never closed, it stretched. She spent more weekends with her bride tribe, ignored my texts for hours, then rolled her eyes when I brought it up, calling me clingy. I told myself it was the pressure, her mother micromanaging every detail. I kept hoping after the honeymoon, everything would go back to normal. Then came that night, 3 weeks before our wedding. I walked in, exhausted, and found her on the couch, dressed like she was going out. Not upset, just distant. "We need to talk," she said. Those words always hit like a bullet. She needed a break, felt trapped, lost herself. I tried to listen, but I felt outside my body. She didn't want to call off the wedding, just pause everything, maybe take a solo trip. I just nodded. She hugged me like a friend saying goodbye, then left. For 3 days, I told no one. I drifted through life like a ghost. My mom called about the rehearsal dinner headcount, I mumbled and changed the subject. Brooke texted a passive-aggressive message, I left her on read. I didn't know how to say it, saying it would make it real. Then my phone rang. It was a recruiter I'd spoken to months ago about a dream job in Denver. I'd turned it down because Chloe didn't want to leave her family. But now, I told him I was interested. 2 days later, a video interview. By the end of the week, an offer. That night, I sat alone, staring at the wedding invitations stacked by the door. The gold-embossed lettering, our names intertwined. It all looked like a joke. So, I made a decision. I canceled the venue, called the caterer, emailed the photographer. Piece by piece, I dismantled the wedding. I sent a mass email to guests, event off. Cancelled. No explanation. I didn't call Chloe. I didn't respond to her texts. I packed my life into boxes, closed out the lease, and 3 weeks later, I was in Denver. I thought that would be the end. New job, new number, a different coast. I didn't even tell Sharon or Brooke until a month later. They were furious, of course. Sharon called me immature, said I owed Chloe a conversation. Brooke accused me of running away like a coward. But none of them had been there that night, felt that vacuum when the person you love tells you they're not sure if they love you anymore. For a while, it was peaceful. Lonely, but clean, honest, quiet. Until 2 days ago. I came home late, phone buzzed, unrecognized number. I let it ring. A minute later, another call. Then a text, "Please, Caleb, just talk to me." I froze, staring at the screen like it was a ghost. Another text, "I'm outside." At first, I thought it was a scam. But then I heard the knock. Not frantic, just persistent. I walked to the door, looked through the peephole. There she was. Chloe. Hair longer, eyes puffy, phone in one hand, folded paper in the other. She looked right into the peephole. "I made a mistake," she said quietly. "I didn't open the door." I backed away as if it were on fire. And that was just the beginning. The next morning, a flood of messages from numbers I didn't recognize. "You owe her a conversation. She's been through so much. She deserves closure. You're being cruel." Her bridesmaids, her cousin, even one of her coworkers. All painting me as the villain. The heartless man who wouldn't grant his ex-fiancée 5 minutes. But none of them were there the night she asked for a break like we were deciding on a movie. None of them saw what it did to me. And none of them knew what I'd just found out last night. Because after the 5th text, I finally opened her message history. And I saw something she didn't mean for me to see. Something that shattered whatever scraps of peace I had left. That's when everything changed. I didn't respond right away. I just sat on the edge of my mattress, still on the floor, because I hadn't bothered with a bed frame, staring at her message history with a numb disbelief. I hadn't meant to open it. I wasn't planning on replying to Chloe ever. But curiosity, it's a tricky thing. I thought maybe she'd sent something dramatic, something that would confirm I'd made the right decision. I didn't expect what I saw. The first message was from her, 3:02 a.m., "Please, just give me 5 minutes. You don't have to take me back. I just need to say it." But right below it, a message from an unnamed number, "So, he's ignoring you now. LOL. You said he was the clingy one." And then another, "Guess the safety net cut the cord." My stomach twisted. Maybe a dozen messages, all from that same number, scattered over the past month. Some jokes, some cruel. A few pictures, screenshots of memes about exes coming back after ghosting. But the worst part? Chloe responded to everyone. And not once did she defend me. One reply stood out, dated just 2 weeks before she showed up at my door, "I don't regret anything. He just never understood me. I needed to live before I settled." I put the phone down like it was radioactive. My mind raced, stitching together a timeline. She needed a break to clear her head, but she'd been laughing about me behind my back. Worse, these messages weren't from a concerned friend. They read like two people sharing a secret, a joke at someone else's expense. My expense. I didn't sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling, thinking about every time she'd told me she just needed space, every weekend with her bride tribe, every time she deflected a real conversation with a kiss. I realized something I hadn't let myself admit: the break wasn't confusion. It was a cover, a soft exit plan. And I'd been the fool, waiting at the gate. By morning, I was exhausted, but adrenaline kept me upright. I worked like a robot. My boss even asked if I was okay. I lied. I considered blocking her number, but some morbid curiosity, some misplaced caution, held me back. I told myself I wouldn't engage. I just wanted to understand. Then the voicemails started. First, Chloe sobbing, saying she made a huge mistake, couldn't stop thinking about me, lost the best thing that ever happened to her. Second, quieter, more composed, she'd been working on herself, therapy, journaling, trying to grow. Not asking me back, just to listen. But the third one stopped me cold. It was Sharon, her mother. "Caleb, this is Sharon. I know you've made your decision, but Chloe is hurting, and I think the decent thing would be to hear her out. We all make mistakes, and I think you're being very cruel by pretending she doesn't exist. That word. Cruel. Not hurt, not devastated, but cruel. As if I'd pulled the rug out from under a helpless woman instead of reclaiming my dignity. I didn't respond, but I did block Sharon's number. That night, a package appeared at my door. No name, just a brown box. I hesitated, then opened it. Inside, a scrapbook, photos of us, printed texts from our early days, and a letter. I shouldn't have read it, but I did. In it, Chloe wrote she had panicked, thought she needed to experience more, that friends put things in her head, that maybe she wasn't ready. Claimed she'd gone on a trip alone, reconnected with herself, and realized the life we were building was everything she wanted. There was never anyone else, she wrote. I just didn't know how to be loved the way you loved me. I closed the book. I didn't cry. I just felt hollow and angry because she was rewriting the narrative, erasing the part where she abandoned me, replacing it with a softer version where she simply needed to grow. The next day, I heard from Sharon. Apparently, Chloe had contacted her too. She just wants to talk, Caleb, Sharon said. I know it was messy, but you were always the bigger person. Don't shut the door so hard you can't open it later. I almost laughed. Sharon, the same woman who told me I was too sensitive when Brooke stole my bike, was now advising me on boundaries. Did she tell you what she did? I asked. What did she do? Sharon replied. She got scared. People get cold feet all the time. That's when I realized Chloe had been busy. She was painting herself as the lost soul, the regretful ex-fiancée, the one who made a tragic mistake. She was controlling the story, and everyone, from her friends to my own family, was eating it up. 2 days later, a letter arrived at work. At work! Plain white envelope, my name in the same looping cursive she used on old Valentine's cards. I didn't even open it. I tossed it in the trash, walked into the nearest conference room, and just sat there. I felt hunted, watched, gaslit. Then I got the message that broke me. It was from Ashley, one of the bridesmaids who used to giggle with Chloe while sipping overpriced cocktails and pretending to care about my day. She wrote, Hey, Caleb, just so you know, Chloe found out you were talking to someone new. She's devastated. You could have at least waited until she had closure. Waited. I stared at the screen, my pulse thudding. Waited. Chloe had abandoned me. Chloe had taken a break without telling anyone, made jokes about me in texts to another guy, then waited 6 months to come crawling back. And now she was hurt because I'd had coffee with someone from my building? I called her. I don't know why. I just snapped. She answered on the first ring, breathless, like she'd been waiting. Chloe, I said, my voice calm but cold. What do you want from me? I just wanted to talk. I didn't mean for everything to go down like that. I was scared. Don't lie to me, I thought. Who's the guy you were texting jokes about me with? Silence. You don't know what you're talking about, she finally said. I saw the messages, Chloe. I saw the dates. Don't insult my intelligence. Another pause, then a quiet, shaky voice, that was nothing. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. And now you're showing up at my apartment, messaging my mom, sending letters to my job. I just want you to hear me out. I did, I cut her off. I heard everything. 6 months ago, you wanted space. You got it. Click. I hung up. But the storm wasn't over. That night, Brooke called me. You're being dramatic, she said. She flew across the country for you. She manipulated half my contact list and stalked my apartment. I shot back. She just wants to make things right. No, she wants the version of me that made her feel safe while she looked elsewhere. Do you even hear yourself? I hung up again. And that's when the real betrayal came. The next morning, a knock on the door. No one there, just a folded envelope. I opened it, and my stomach dropped. It was from Brooke. A handwritten letter, but all I needed was the last line, "Maybe you're too broken to see when someone is truly sorry." I crumpled the paper and threw it at the wall. It hit the floor without a sound, like every other thing I'd done to protect myself. For the first time, I realized my family didn't care about what happened to me, they only cared about how I handled it. And as long as I stayed quiet, I was invited to the table. The moment I stood up for myself, I became the problem. That was the breaking point. What I did next, let's just say I stopped waiting for apologies. I started making plans. After I read Brooke's letter, I just sat there, on the edge of that futon, the same cheap thing I told myself I'd replace when I got settled. I stared at the wall, processing the truth that had finally landed with full weight: my family didn't know me. Worse, they didn't care to. I'd spent years trying to be the steady one, the peacemaker, the one who kept things from falling apart. I thought that earned me loyalty, a benefit of the doubt. It hadn't. It earned me a front-row seat to my own erasure. The days that followed felt like a free-fall. I stopped answering calls, blocked numbers, ignored emails. My appetite disappeared. I'd come home from work, toss my bag, and stare out the window like I was waiting for something. An apology? An explanation? Some proof I wasn't the only one going crazy? That first week, I barely functioned. I'd wake up, force myself through spreadsheets, then return to my apartment and sit in silence. The only sound was the refrigerator's hum and occasional sirens. It was like I'd slipped into an alternate dimension where everyone else kept moving and I was frozen. And it wasn't just Chloe anymore. It was Sharon, Brooke, even old friends from back home messaging things like, "Heard what happened, hope you're not holding a grudge." People mess up, as if this was just a parking ticket. I kept thinking about Brooke's letter, "Maybe you're too broken." It echoed like a drumbeat. Maybe I was broken. Maybe I was the common denominator. I thought back to every relationship, romantic, platonic, familial. The one common thread? I gave more than I got. I showed up, I bent, I compromised. And in the end, I got left behind every time. I didn't want to be bitter. But bitterness doesn't need permission. It creeps in quietly, patiently. 2 weeks after that letter, I hit what I now recognize as rock bottom. An invitation arrived in the mail. Hand addressed. I almost didn't open it, but curiosity still had claws. Inside was a cream-colored card, thick and embossed, for a fancy event. Brooke and her husband were renewing their vows. 10 years of marriage, a destination ceremony in Asheville, a weekend of wine and speeches, celebrating enduring love. I laughed out loud. Not because it was funny, but because the absurdity of it made something snap. She invited me, the brother she'd just called too broken. No note, no apology, just an RSVP and a hotel block code. I stared at that card. Then I walked to the kitchen, pulled open the drawer with my old wedding invitations, the ones I never mailed, and put hers right on top. That's when something shifted. I looked at the pile of things I'd been avoiding: unopened letters, moving boxes, the mattress on the floor, the broken lamp. My life was still in transition, months after I supposedly moved on. So, I got up. I started small. I bought a bed frame. Not fancy, just solid. I put the mattress on it, threw away old college blankets. I bought new sheets, real ones, navy blue with white stripes. It felt like nothing, but also like reclaiming something small that was mine. The next weekend, I went to IKEA, replaced the sagging futon, and finally bought a desk. I spent the whole day assembling, sweating, cursing the instructions. When I was done, I sat in the chair and looked around. My apartment looked like someone lived there. Not someone in limbo. Someone living. I started cooking again. Not just microwaving meals, but actual pasta, stir-fries, roasted vegetables. I rediscovered how calming it was to move around a kitchen, to slice onions, listen to music, and feel like the day had rhythm. Work got better too. I leaned into it, not as a distraction, but as a way to build momentum. I started mentoring a junior analyst named Darren, who reminded me a little too much of myself at that age. Quiet, capable, but afraid to speak up. He'd always thank me. One day he said, "You're one of the only people here who doesn't make me feel stupid." That stuck with me. Maybe I wasn't broken. Maybe I was just tired of being used. The apartment came together slowly. Art for the walls, prints from a local bookstore. A rug, plants, a real coffee table. I even started going for walks in the evening, sometimes down to the waterfront where I'd watch the ferries. One night, I ran into a neighbor, Lena. I'd seen her in the elevator, but never really talked. She had this easy smile, wore old band t-shirts with blazers, like she couldn't decide if she was going to a concert or a job interview. We struck up a conversation about the cafe downstairs. One chat turned into another, and eventually, she invited me to a rooftop poetry night her friend hosted. I almost said no, but something in me whispered, "Say yes." So I went. It was weird and awkward and great. I met people, laughed, drank mediocre wine. Lena read a poem about heartbreak feeling like a house fire where you're both the arsonist and the insurance agent. I told her it was oddly comforting. She said, "Thanks." I wrote it during a blackout cry on my bathroom floor. We became friends, real ones. I didn't tell her about Chloe at first. But one night, we were on the rooftop, and she asked why I'd moved to Denver. I told her the truth. All of it. Not just the clean version, but the messy one. The heartbreak, the betrayal, the guilt, the weird, warped grief of watching someone try to rewrite your story. Lena didn't interrupt. She didn't pity me. When I finished, she just said, "Sounds like she wasn't ready for the version of you that wasn't made for bending." That line hit me like a sucker punch. Because she was right. All my life, I'd been bending for family, for partners, for peace. But lately, I'd started standing straight. And it felt good. The next few weeks passed quietly. I got into a rhythm. I started journaling. Nothing deep, just a few lines each night about what I noticed, felt, hoped. I didn't think about Chloe much anymore. Or when I did, it wasn't with anger. It was like remembering someone from a past life. Then one morning, an email from Sharon. Subject, family dinner. Please come. I stared at it. An invitation, not just to dinner, but to reconciliation. She said Brooke would be there, they wanted to clear the air. She mentioned Chloe's name, too. Said she hadn't heard from her, been through a lot. That's when I realized they still didn't get it. They still thought this was about a relationship. They didn't see the real story. They didn't see that my silence had been survival. That I wasn't punishing anyone, I was protecting myself. And yet, a small part of me was curious. Not about going back, but about what would happen if I finally spoke. Really spoke. I stared at that email, heart beating like a drum. Slowly, a plan began to form. I didn't reply to the email. Not right away. I reread it maybe 20 times, weighing my options like a silent treaty with my past. The old Caleb, the one who always said yes, who'd walk back into the lion's den if it made someone else comfortable, would have replied, "Sure, happy to catch up." And then spent the next week bracing for veiled jabs. But I wasn't that guy anymore. I had changed. Not colder, but clearer. And clarity has a funny way of showing you not just what hurt you, but how it happened, and why you let it. I decided not to go to that dinner. Not because I didn't want to see them, but because I wanted to choose how they saw me. This wasn't payback, not exactly. It was about rewriting the script. The one they'd all written for me without my input, where I was the hurt little brother, the cold ex, the passive participant. I wasn't going to beg for understanding. I was going to show them who I'd become. And when the dust settled, they'd finally understand what they lost when they treated me like an afterthought. That night, I sat at my desk and opened a blank document. I wrote one sentence: "You don't get to burn the bridge and then act shocked when I don't swim across." Then I got to work. Step 1 was Chloe, or rather, Chloe's version of me that still lived in the minds of her friends, family, and mine. She'd spent months curating this image of herself as the sad, confused ex who made a mistake and was bravely trying to make amends. That version got sympathy. Mine got silence. But what no one knew, what I barely knew until recently, was that Chloe wasn't just confused. She was calculated. I remembered something she'd let slip once, long before the wedding chaos. We were in bed after a party, and she was venting about an old friend who'd crossed a line. I asked what happened, and she rolled her eyes. "It's not like I slept with him or anything. I just needed to feel wanted. I never said I was perfect." At the time, I let it go. Now, it echoed. I started digging. I knew her Instagram was private, but mutuals were a thing. I scrolled through tag posts, looked at public photos. Then I remembered her best friend, Ashley, the one who texted me accusing me of being cruel. Her profile was public and careless. Buried 3 months back was a carousel of photos from some beach trip. One was a sunset, one a drink, and one, half-cropped, was a group selfie. Ashley, 2 other girls, and at the edge of the frame, Chloe sitting on the lap of a man I'd never seen before. His hand was on her thigh. It wasn't obvious, not scandalous, but it was there. I saved the image. Then I scrolled through his profile, also public, and found more. A group dinner, a hiking trip. Her name never tagged, but her face always there. Laughing, drinking wine, sitting just close enough. The last one was from a bar, people at a table, raising glasses. The caption: "To finally cutting ties with what holds you back." Posted a week before she showed up at my door. The self-growth narrative was a lie. She didn't come to me because she missed me. She came because that fell apart. Step 2 was my family. This part took time. I knew I couldn't convince them by arguing. Brooke, especially, was the queen of deflection. Every time I tried to call her out, she'd twist it into some therapeutic-sounding nonsense about my unresolved issues. But this time, I had something she couldn't spin. Brooke was all about appearances. Her social media was a curated museum of success. Doctor, husband, 3 kids, fitness journey, motivational quotes. Every like was a gold star. Every post was a chess move in the game of social hierarchy. And guess what she was planning for her 10-year vow renewal? Live streaming it. I found out because an old college friend, Sarah, who I used to be close with, messaged me. She'd seen Brooke's post about the ceremony and was shocked I wasn't tagged. I asked if she had the stream link. She did. I bookmarked it. Then I got an idea. I wouldn't crash the party. I'd preempt it. I started writing again. Not a speech, not a rant. A letter. Not to Chloe, not to Brooke, not to Sharon. To everyone. It took 3 nights. I crafted every sentence with precision. I kept the tone calm, clear, and devastatingly honest. I wrote about what really happened. About how Chloe walked away from our life while building something new. About how my family chose to scold me for not making them comfortable instead of holding her accountable. About how they let the version of events that made them feel better become the only version that mattered. And then I said this, I'm not writing this for sympathy. I'm not asking for your validation. I'm writing because for the first time in my life, I'm done shrinking to fit into the spaces you've allowed me. You don't have to believe me. You don't have to agree. But you will know the truth. I posted it anonymously on a forum where mutuals could see. I included screenshots, cropped, redacted, but clear enough. The beach photo. The bar photo. A snippet of the conversation between Chloe and Liam, the one where she laughed about me being the safety net. Then I hit publish. And I walked away. Step 3 was more personal. I filed paperwork to officially change my mailing address. I spoke to HR at work about redirecting personal mail to a private P.O. box. I even changed my phone number again. This time not out of fear, but intention. I was cutting cords, but I wasn't isolating. I started spending more time with Lena, not as an escape, but as something real. We didn't label anything. We just shared moments. She didn't try to fix me. She didn't tell me how to feel. She just listened, asked good questions, challenged me when I deflected. One night, on her balcony, I told her everything, from the engagement to the move to the vow renewal letter. She listened quietly. When I was done, she said, "You're not looking for revenge." I raised an eyebrow. "I'm not," she affirmed. "You're looking for closure, but the kind you give yourself, not the kind you beg from other people." I thought about that for a long time. She was right. But closure doesn't mean silence. Sometimes it means clarity. And sometimes it means consequences. The day of Brooke's vow renewal, I woke up early. The sun was already pushing through the blinds. I made coffee, took a long shower, and opened my laptop. I didn't log into the stream. I didn't need to. Because 30 minutes before the ceremony, I scheduled an email blast to go out to everyone. Every cousin, every friend, every +1 I hadn't seen in years. The same people who'd been sent wedding invites with gold-embossed cursive. The same ones who'd whispered condolences and disappeared when things got messy. The email included the letter I wrote, a shorter version with the photos, with the receipts. The subject line, "Before you raise a glass, know the full story." Then I closed my laptop and waited. Not for their replies, but for the silence that follows when truth finally breaks the surface. And somewhere between that silence and the flood to come, I started to smile. Fallout doesn't come all at once. It doesn't hit like an explosion. It's quieter than that, slower. It spreads in waves. Awkward silences, unanswered texts, passive-aggressive comments in group chats that suddenly get deleted. A strange, loaded absence where there used to be noise. That's how it started. The first wave came about an hour after I scheduled that email blast. I didn't check my inbox at first. I wasn't pacing. I went for a walk, bought myself breakfast from a small bakery, sat on a bench near the water, and watched a golden retriever chase ducks. I felt still. Not triumphant, not giddy, just clear. When I finally opened my phone, it buzzed like it was having a seizure. Over 40 unread messages. Some short, a few long. Most started with some variation of, "I had no idea." My cousin Daniel wrote, "Bro, that email, I don't know what to say. You handled that like a boss." My Uncle Frank, who never said more than 2 words to me outside of holidays, saw the pics. "Can't believe she had the nerve. Proud of you." But there were others, too. "Sharon, Caleb, I wish you hadn't aired family business like that. We could have handled it privately." And "Brooke, I'm speechless. Truly, you would sabotage the most important day of my life just to make a point. That's low even for you." I didn't reply to either of them. They weren't asking questions, they were issuing complaints. I wasn't interested in shrinking anymore to make space for other people's comfort. The real aftermath came in the days that followed. I heard from Sarah again, Brooke's old friend. She said the wedding was a disaster. Apparently, the email had made it to more than just the guests. Someone had forwarded it to Brooke's husband's side of the family, including his very conservative parents, who hadn't appreciated the sudden blast of drama on what was supposed to be a sacred renewal of vows. The awkward tension started before the ceremony, people murmuring, looking at each other sideways. Brooke, of course, had tried to pretend everything was normal, but you can't exactly smile through a reputation collapse when everyone's walking around with your brother's receipts in their pocket. Half the bridal party skipped the rehearsal dinner. One of the groomsmen left halfway through. And according to Sarah, even the officiant made a vague, uncomfortable reference during the vows to not letting the past become a weapon. Oof. That night, the live stream recording, meant for inspiration content, was mysteriously deleted from every platform. The photographer who'd posted preview photos took them down. And Brooke's Instagram, once a shrine to her perfect life, went quiet for 5 full days, which, if you know Brooke, might as well be 5 years. Chloe, meanwhile, went ghost. I didn't hear from her directly, but I saw the ripple effects. 2 of her bridesmaids blocked me, probably furious. That was fine. But a week after the email, I got a DM from a guy named Liam. The name didn't ring a bell until I clicked his profile and recognized him. He was the guy, the one from the beach photo, the one with the caption about cutting ties. His message was simple: didn't realize what she did to you. I should have. Sorry, man. Hope you're doing all right. I sat with that for a moment. I didn't reply. What was there to say? But part of me, some deep, long-buried part, felt seen. It wasn't about rubbing it in. It wasn't about making Chloe hurt. It was about finally breaking the illusion. She couldn't play the victim anymore. Not after I laid out the truth. Not after I forced everyone to look. Sharon called again the following Sunday. I let it ring 4 times before I answered. Her voice was tired. Not angry. Just worn. Caleb, she said, I've been thinking. I didn't realize how much I've asked you to carry. How often I expected you to just absorb everything. Still, I said nothing. I'm not asking you to come home. I'm not even asking you to forgive. I just want you to know I heard you. And for the first time in months, I felt something warm crack open in my chest. I still didn't say much. But when she asked if she could visit Denver sometime, just as a mom, not as a fixer, I said yes. Not soon, but maybe. Brooke didn't reach out again. Not directly. But I got word through the family grapevine that she'd taken a social media break and was telling people she was reevaluating how much of her life she shared publicly, which was code for, she got caught. And honestly, I didn't need anything more from her. I wasn't interested in revenge beyond the truth. And the truth had done its job. In the weeks that followed, I found myself exhaling more easily. Things with Lena had grown steadily. She never asked for details, but she knew. Knew when I needed silence, when I needed sarcasm, when I needed to just be a guy on a couch with takeout and an old movie. One night, we were out walking, and she said, "You've changed since I met you." I laughed. Good or bad? Neither, she said. Just more you. And that felt right. Because I hadn't changed into someone new. I just peeled away everything I was never supposed to carry. I thought a lot about what it means to win. For a while, I thought it was about proving people wrong, about forcing apologies, about being vindicated in public. But the real win? It's peace. It's coming home to a space that feels like yours. It's looking in the mirror and knowing you didn't bend. Not this time. It's realizing that walking away wasn't weakness. It was strength. And that sometimes the cleanest revenge isn't rage or noise. It's calm. It's silence. It's success. It's no longer needing anything from the people who hurt you. Not closure, not apologies, not validation. Just this, a full, unapologetic life. What would you have done if your own family turned against you like that?